There is a lingering dispute over the UFC. For the first time in the young sport's history, it is under investigation by the FBI for a betting scandal. But before we start, let's look at a similar incident in a different sport. After being a part of approximately 800 regular season games and playoffs, an official was investigating for gambling using insider knowledge. The person accused was Tim Donaghy of the NBA, and his career came to an end in 2017. After his suspension by the league, he pleaded guilty to federal charges of conspiracy and wire fraud and transmitting bet information through interstate commerce. He was sentenced at a halfway house and prison for 15 months and fined $500,000. This led to skepticism throughout the league and caused the NBA to lose credibility. This was a huge incident, but the NBA is a team sport, and UFC is an individual combat sport where fixing fights can be easily done. With that being said, we are MMA Authority, and we are here to cover everything mixed martial arts. So, in this video, we are going to discuss the controversial issues surrounding the UFC. Has illicit gambling taken over the octagon? This video is part 1, so make sure to stick around to the end. First, you need to understand one thing. People have been placing wagers on fights for a long time. Boxing is no stranger to betting scandals, and a lot of bets ran through the mob in the 1940s and 50s. Now, in 2022, in the UFC, it is known for fighters to place bets on other fighters' cards that were about to perform. The most notorious gambler is James Krause. Krause is a former member of the UFC, now turned coach. Competing out of the Glory Gym, he is also an entrepreneur who runs the 1% Club podcast and the 1% Discord Club. During his Discord club, he would give insight and advice on fighters and who to bet on for upcoming cards. He trained fighters out of the Glory Gym. He has even gone on record during the MMA Hour that he makes most of his money betting on MMA. Now, at the time of the interview, August 1st, 2022, UFC policy did not forbid coaches, players, or trainers for betting on fights. Now, here is where things get interesting. Before continuing the video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to never miss out on the latest from MMA Authority. So, on October 17th, 2022, UFC sent a memo to all personnel. To paraphrase, you may be aware that most states where regulated sports betting is allowed prohibit athletes from placing wagers on events or promotions they are associated with. This prohibition is also extended to athletes' training teams, their family, and anyone with access to information about the athletes or their events. Sometimes, violating these prohibitions can lead to criminal charges. This memo did still allow fighters to have sponsors with sportsbooks like FanDuel and DraftKings. Oftentimes, these fighters would receive compensation by these sportbooks to pick who they believed would be the winning fighter. After the new policy change on the 5th of November 2022, UFC oddsmakers and watchdog groups were alerted to suspicious gambling activity just before the fight in Las Vegas between Shailon Nuerdanbeka and Darrick Minner. Darrick Minner is one of James Krause's fighters out of Glory Gym. Just 90 minutes before the fight, underdog Minner's spread numbers had jumped astronomically. Nuerdanbeka was an important betting favorite throughout the build-up to the fight. The match began and everything was normal business, but after Minner's knee began to buckle, Nuerdanbeka prevailed in the opening round by technical knockout. Later, Minner was reported to have injured his left knee in the pre-fight. Rumors of the injury circulated among betting insiders. Shortly following the fight, ESPN reported that US Integrity was investigating betting fraud. The firm's analysis shows that Nuerdanbeka won by knockout in round 1. In December, since the investigation began, James Krause has been suspended from the UFC and not allowed back in the Glory Gym where he trains his fighters. Anyone in contact with him will not be allowed to participate in UFC events. Derek Minner has been released from the UFC, most likely banned. Now, this is still an ongoing investigation, so nothing has been determined yet, but the question remains, can UFC overcome the threat of fight fixing? Is James Krause the scapegoat for the UFC? With the increase in sports betting in 2021 due in large part to the launch of legal wagering in 11 new states and counting, how can the UFC mitigate fight fixing? This was all we had for you today, so just let us know your opinion in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to MMA Authority, stay safe, and keep your guard up. We will be back soon with another video.